Hi there, it's Nicole for Simon Says Stamp, and today I've got a couple of cards featuring the Fingerprint Doodles stamp set. This is brand new from the One of a Kind release, and it is this darling stamp set that has stamps that look like fingerprints, and then all of these great outlines of little critters and animals, plus some great little greetings, and they're just so much fun to create. These cards literally just took minutes. I love to create the really detailed cards with lots of coloring, but sometimes you want to create something a little bit simpler and maybe be able to create multiples of them really quickly. These are cards that you could create multiples of so easily. To start, I've got a piece of smooth white cardstock trimmed to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and I've laid out some greetings here. One of the greetings, the smaller phrase, is from the Fingerprint Doodles stamp set. The larger congrats phrase is from the brand new Big Greetings 1 stamp set. So I'm combining these two for the card, and by laying them out, it allows me to make sure I leave space for them when I go, because I'm stamping the fingerprints first, I want to make sure I leave room for those greetings. Once I have the outlines of the fish, I decided to stamp them kind of in a rainbow pattern. I'm using Hot Lips for, that's the red color of ink that I've got there for my first fish. Next, I have Clementine, which is the orange. I'll move on to yellow next with the Duckling ink. I like to stamp them off on my Simon Says Stamp grid paper first to make sure any ink residue left over. I did switch the fingerprints because there's several different ones. I wanted them all to be unique, just like fingerprints are. But some of them I repeated, and so if there was a little ink left on them, even after I cleaned it, especially moving from a darker color to a light color, I like to stamp them off on a scrap piece of paper and make sure they're clean before I go to my card and maybe run the chance of ruining the card. The green I'm using is Green Apple, then Blue Jay for blue, and finally Lavender for the purple. I started with these. You'll probably notice in the finished card there's two additional fish. I've got the hiccups. And that's because once I got to kind of the finishing point of the card, I felt like I needed a couple more fish. Plus, there's just so many gorgeous Simon Says Stamp dye ink colors to use. I really wanted to incorporate a few more. Now, I wanted to create a background for these fish. These images do not have coordinating dyes or anything like that, and that should not take away from being able to create fantastic backgrounds if you want to create scenes, which is what I'm doing here today. Stencils are a fantastic way to do this. I am using the Waves stencil from Simon Says Stamp and MALIBLUE ink with an ink duster tool. I have found that I have so much more control of a dye ink when I'm trying to apply it to a background when I use a dusting tool rather than a foam applicator. With foam applicators, I feel like I get blotches of ink and it's not that smooth, seamless background. But you can see with the ink duster, it just dusts that dye ink on beautifully. I can't say enough about these ink dusters when you want to use a dye ink to create a background. You could even go in with a darker color and layer in some darker color for more variation if you wanted. I've taken a black glazed pen here and added detail to the eyes. And now I'm going to lay out my greetings. To do this and get them stamped perfectly, since I've already done so much work to the background of my card, I'm going to go ahead and use my MISTI. That's going to ensure that when I stamp this, if any part of it is kind of light or maybe doesn't stamp really great the first time, I can go back over it twice and it's going to stamp exactly where it did the first time. So I'm lining these up, and I really messed with them a lot because I did not want to mess up my background. I am using the Lawn Fawn Jet Black ink. I used Simon Says Stamp black ink for the fish outline since I wasn't doing any Copic coloring. But for the word congrats, I am going to be doing some Copic coloring. So I used the Jet Black ink, which is not going to bleed when I use my Copic markers. To match the rainbow feel of the fish, I'm going to take Copic markers in rainbow color and color in my letters. So I'm starting with reds with R24 and R29. Not a ton of blending needs to happen here. These are really small areas, but by adding some color to these little areas on the letters in the big congrats, or big greetings rather, stamp set, because all of the greetings in this stamp set have this kind of style to them, it really makes the greeting pop. And once you see all the letters colored, it really just makes that whole sentiment come alive. The orange was YR04 and YR09. Yellow was Y11 and Y08. Green is YG01 and YG25. I'm going to go ahead and do a little aqua here. This coloring in the greeting is what prompted me to add more fish. I had more letters than what I had colors of the rainbow, and I decided instead of starting over with red and orange that I would just include more colors. And by adding in aqua and pink, I'm going to be able to use all of my favorite rainbow colors. So my aqua is BG11 and 13. The blue is B21 and B24. The purple is V19, I believe, and BV01, and then RV52 and RV55 for the pink. And isn't that greeting look so much fun now? You wouldn't have to do this in rainbow color. You could do these in any colors you wanted to, maybe school colors for a graduation congratulations card, or baby pinks, do all pinks or all blues for new babies. Lots and lots of different ways to use these letters or color in these sentiments. They're just really fun and easy to do. So I've stamped 2 more fish, and I'm going to fill in with Hollyhock ink for my pink ink. And then for the aqua, I am going to use Scuba ink. I thought those matched my Copic colors. I have swatches for all of the Simon Says Stamp dye inks, and that really helped me choose my ink colors so easily because I could quickly look at my Copic markers and know exactly what I wanted to use or what would coordinate nicely. Now that I have all my fish stamped and my congrats colored in, I'm going to add a quick finishing detail by taking glossy accents and adding bubbles coming up from some of the fish in varying sizes. These are going to dry clear and just be a great finishing element to this really clean and simple scene. I'm flipping it around so I don't get my hand in any of the glossy accents. I probably should have done the top ones first. Once I have that done, I am going to go ahead and mat this on some mermaid cardstock from Lawn Fawn. I'm going to adhere that to a white top fold card base. You could also make your card base from the mermaid cardstock if you wanted to, or any color. I just liked this for the card. It complements the waves stencil color really nicely. And there is the fish congrats card all finished. For my second card, I am taking the Irregular Dots stencil, and I'm going to do my stenciling first because that's going to give me a guideline of where to stamp my mice. I'm taking Duckling ink and the other end of my ink duster tool. These are double-ended ink dusters. There's lots of different ones you could use. And I'm applying the Duckling ink. And this gives you an even better idea of ink dusting versus a foam applicator and how amazing it looks. Especially when this ink dries. It's going to dry really nice, just like dye ink does. Nice and flat. It'll absorb into the paper, and any of those little irregularities, maybe where it's a little darker or whatever, seems to flatten out a little bit better. So there is my cheese background. I thought these irregular dots looked kind of like a piece of cheese. And then the cute little mouse from the Fingerprint Doodles is going to be perfect to be peeking out from some of these pieces of cheese. Now I need to make sure that I get my greeting stamped first so that I don't stamp any mice in any of those circles. So I'm going to go ahead. I went ahead and left the congrats and the so proud of you greetings in my MISTI, so I'm inking those up again with the Jet Black Lawn Fawn ink, stamping those on my background. Then I can take the mouse and go ahead and stamp this little guy. I want him coming in from different angles through several pieces or several of those little holes in this piece of cheese. So lots of little mice. The outlines don't look like much until you get the little fingerprint in them, and then I think they just come to life. They're so fun. I think I'll add at least one, maybe two more little mice peeking here and there. And then I am going to take a solid stone color, the stone color of dye ink, and stamp one of those fingerprints as the body of each of my mice. To color in the insides of the ears, I'm taking RV52, coloring those in really quick, very, very easy coloring. I've got a piece of sunflower cardstock from Lawn Fawn that I'm going to mat this panel on. And then I will adhere this to a top fold white card base, just like I did the other one. You can take a black glaze pen, add detail to the eyes to really make them pop. And my second congrats card is all finished. Thanks for joining me today for these cards featuring new stamps from the Simon Says Stamp one-of-a-kind release. The supplies I've used to create these cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring Simon Says stamps and dies that you might be interested in. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you next time.